Yeah, so I agree with you and I disagree with you because I think that if Elon comes out and either makes another large Bitcoin purchase, I just think that narrative will send Bitcoin running, not necessarily the action of it. But I'm
Yeah.
with you on that. More Fortune 500 companies. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple, makes adds Bitcoin to its balance sheet or one of these big companies. And what's crazy is, you have the spot ETF coming, the presidential election coming, and we have the halving incoming. I mean, where do you kind of rank these events in the whole price action of Bitcoin? Do you see any of them being more significant than the other?
Spot ETF is by far, I think, the most significant. Um,
Really?
and there's a lot we can break down from that conversation because there's a lot I think that's going to happen with the presidential election, but that depends on who wins. And so there's a
Hmm.
kind of a game theory you have to play there. But you said something about Trump, which we can talk about as well. But the spot ETF, from my perspective, is if you look at your Federal Reserve economic data or your research from the St. Louis Fed, you can look at the personal savings rate in America. The difference between this cycle and last cycle, they always say that you never want to say this time is going to be different, but this time is different. We're in a high interest based environment for Bitcoin for the first time. It was birthed out of a recession. So it's only been in a low interest rate environment. And with these bull runs, specifically 2021, we had $2 trillion printed from the government and just given to retailers, right, for stimulating the economy. And if you put it, what's crazy is if you take that chart, the Fred economic research, the personal savings chart, and overlay that to Bitcoin, it's the exact start and end of the retail bull run in March and April of 2021. Then obviously you had FTX artificially print tokens that had no value and like do all the investor manipulation leading up to the futures. But it's a direct overlay. And so when you realize that, it goes now I'm like, okay, where's the money going to come into in this next bull market? Is it going to come from the Fed's pivoting and printing money? Well, I think we're going to keep interest rates at a much higher pace now for a longer period of time. And the government's done a great job at kind of hiding the data, right? We're at a unemployment all-time low, right? Or a multi-decade low, right? The economy's strong. Consumers are still spending. They're taking on more credit. They're adding more debt. And so it's going to allow them to sustain themselves at this higher interest rate level for a little bit longer period of time. And I don't think we're going to pivot till end of 2024, maybe in 2025. And historically, when you have a pivot, that's actually very bearish for markets. So that actually
Mhm.
might have a negative impact in the short term. So a spot ETF, going back to the consumer spending, where's the money going to come from this time? Well, if we're in a high interest rate based environment, we're at a time of multiple conflicts on a global scale, a time of uncertainty. You're going to start seeing a lot of people focusing on saving, which is what the Feds want. They want you to save and they want unemployment to rise. That's how we stop inflation. And so if that's the case, again, where does the money come from? Well, it's going to come from the spot ETFs. It's going to come from BlackRock now having financial advisors on a multi-million clients, right? All their FAs are going to be like, hey guys, I think the Bitcoin halving is the best marketing tool. I think all of a
Yeah.
sudden you go, hey, you should be allocating 1% to 2% of your retirements or your 401k into this hedge against inflation. And that's where you're going to see an injection of a few $100 billion into the market. So I think that's the most bullish scenario for Bitcoin.